It was Francis, Mary and Harriet's 40th high school class reunion in Hoboken, New Jersey, and the celebrated journey was about to begin. The Wilsons much prompted about the venture, Gary having never been to the East Coast with the exception of his flight to Orlando. The couple arriving at an early morning hour at the Modesto Airport, a SkyWest United Airlines Embraer 120 awaiting, the prop-driven aircraft to transport the couple to San Francisco for a United flight to Denver, the first leg of their easterly journey. Arriving at the Denver International Airport, Gary somewhat surprised at the tent-like architecture of the new facility, having addressed the old Stapleton Airport in the past. The layover enabling the couple time to eat, discovering a never-before-seen McDonald's in the terminal. The couple boarding their non-stop United 757 to BWI, the Baltimore-Washington Thurgood Marshall International Airport. Gary enjoying the extended airtime at a window seat with a view of the contouring earth from 37,000 feet. With their arrival, the couple embarking from the secure upper level. Waiting at the foot of the escalator was the patriarch of the Harriet family, Fran's brother Ray. The eldest Harriet having taken time off from his employment with the NSA, National Security Agency for the United States Department of Defense. The three exiting the aerodrome complex, the couple having been invited to spend 3 nights with their host, driving to the Harriet's impressive home in Laurel, Maryland. Ray and his wife Jan proffering an excursion to Washington, D.C. in the morning, Gary enthused at the prospects. The dawning of the new day, the two couples journeying to Washington, D.C., the Capitol building and the National Mall. Ray having spent a beneficial part of his life working in and around the Capitol, having no difficulty acquiring an indoor parking area within walking distance of their objective. The couples starting their tour west of the Capitol, a 1.9-mile walk to encompass all the reaches of the mall. The visitors discovering many other diversified groups besides visiting sightseers, including joggers, employees on a lunch break and organized groups playing football. Ray acting as their provincial tour guide as they approached the Washington Monument, the 555-foot obelisk built of granite, marble and bluestone gneiss, the construction of the memorial starting in 1848 and the capstone crowning finally being placed some 40 years later in 1884. Continuing on with their journey, coming upon the World War II Reflections Pool with its cascading fountains, the couples stopping to read the inscriptions. Then on to the newest memorial edition canonizing those veterans of the Korean War, again taking a temporal length of time to view the presence of their enshrinement. Standing in a grove of trees was another memorial, its rotunda endowed pillars giving tribute to the 2 million Americans having spanned the ocean during the First World War. The far reaches of the National Mall found the prestigious tribute to whom Gary had envisioned throughout his life, the Lincoln Memorial. Gary singularly venturing up the steps to the monument, the others of his coalition observing from below. Standing in the presence of Abraham Lincoln, his ingrained stone effigy sitting in a chair, its presence not just a monument, but a signature representing the stature of America, resonating on the words this great president had spoken. Alone within the privilege of the presidents, no one to distract his thoughts, a rumination of history prevailing Lincoln's lifelong dedication to our country and to the ascendancy that stands before his memorial today. Gary joining the others in a retention from the memorial, a return journey towards the Capitol building. The north side of the National Mall encompassed a tribute to those who contributed in the Vietnam conflict. Gary journeying to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, a black marble structured with the names of those who had fallen in battle in Vietnam. Fran excluding herself, not wanting to partake of the wall, having graduated from high school in 1966, many friends having been drafted for the war in Vietnam, her acquaintances' names being engraved, Fran desiring to remember them as they were. A walk back to the parking garage, a visit to the Smithsonian remaining on the agenda. The Smithsonian composed of 19 complexes, Gary realizing they could spend days exploring the depth of its realm, a decision being made to choose a single complex. The late afternoon to be spent at the Air and Space Pavilion, its premise displaying everything from Charles W. Lindbergh's The Spirit of St. Louis tethered from the ceiling, to the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Space Shuttle missions, with an array of aircraft representative of the generations. The many exhibits capturing a substantial amount of time, Gary ready to exit the touring cortege, the others all in agreement. With the wondrous day coming to a conclusion, a return to Maryland was incurred. Once returning to the Harriet's residence, the evening hour finding a visit from Fran's other brother Bob, whom she hadn't seen in years, Bob hosting a lady friend named Sarah. Gary now having the opportunity to meet both of Fran's older brothers, recognizing the congeniality that resided within the family. Another dawning of a Maryland morning, Jan preparing a commendable breakfast, fuel for the upcoming adventurous day, the foursome journeying to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The highway beckoned, Gary noticing the difference between the major highways in the east and those in California, the unkempt trash-laden highways of California, a visual testimonial to some of its citizenry. With their arrival at the Gettysburg National Park, the two couples entering the Battlefield National Museum. The 9-room museum exhibiting artifacts from the Civil War, the uniforms, armament, and photo excerpts from the era, but most impressive to Gary was the Battlefield Auditorium. The auditorium, a large room with bleachers on one side looking down upon a large tabled epitome of the Battle of Gettysburg, the two opposing armies' positions, highlighted with different colored lights. As the simulated battle progressed, the lights would give action to their battlefield positions, a representation of what transpired in 1863 Gettysburg, it being the bloodiest battleground of the Civil War and where Union Major General George Meade's Army of the Potomac engaged Confederate General Robert E. Lee's Army of Virginia. The 3-day battle commencing on July 1, 1863, resulting in 51,113 casualties divided between the North and South, but all Americans. The dedication for the Soldiers' National Cemetery and the Gettysburg Address was given by President Lincoln 4.5 months after the battle. The two couples exiting the museum joining the tourist group accompanying the park guide up the gentle rises of the cemetery. The guide providing commentary at the monuments, Gary overlooking the historic Gettysburg battleground, finding an acquiesce of solitude, realizing the chronicles of significance that had transpired on this hallowed ground, its meaning, and the aura of the past still remaining. With the afternoon sun beginning to wane, a somber accolade of American history having been fulfilled, a return to Maryland in a quiet evening spent in anticipation of the morrow. Ray and Jan graciously offering to drive Gary and Fran to Cousin Rhoda's in Vineland, New Jersey, a distance of 130 miles. The long morning drive completed, Ray and Jan remaining just long enough to convey their greeting, having over 2 hours of apprehensive road travel for their return. Gary impressed and ever thankful for the extended hospitality of Ray and Jan. The couple taking pleasure in their visit to Rhoda's fashionable trailer park abode. Gary impressed with her Willie Nelson wall, a portrait of the acclaimed musician and other tributes, Rhoda, a proclaimed fan, having met Willie at a concert in Jackson, New Jersey, and of course Gary mentioning that he met Willie when playing in Wichita Falls, Texas in the 60s. It was during a time Willie had a top of the chart hit, "The Party's Over." The star having performed at the Wichita Falls Auditorium. He and several other well-known Western musicians had cavalcade to the club where Gary and the Untouchables were playing. Willie, a clean-shaven suit and tie-attired musician, sitting in with the band. Jerry Willis, the band's guitar player, commenting later that the young Willie had the worst timing for a musician that he had ever played with, a trait that would soon become Willie's trademark. Ro was a perfect hostess, having prepared dinner, the two recalling remembrances from the prior years when an unexpected visitor arrived, another cousin, Rhoda's brother Tate, making an unexpected appearance. Fran also discovering that Rhoda's sister Dottie was within walking distance, another visit to someone from her past. The New Jersey evening making an appearance, the couple aware of the hour. Ro driving them to downtown Vineland to a Days Inn within walking distance of the bus station for their morning journey to New York City and on to Hoboken. Later that evening in their room, Gary answered a knock at the door, a black man expecting another person. A second knock at 11 o'clock and another person with a questionable look on his face. Gary walked down to the motel office, asking the desk clerk if there was some reason people were knocking at his door, suspicious the motel and their room might have something to do with drugs. He requested a room change, but the night clerk declined, saying he would inform the police and request drive-bys for the rest of that night and wouldn't be bothered again. Gary's returning to the room, reassuring Fran, mentioning the desk clerk's solution. Fran laughing with a comment, "Welcome to New Jersey."